The house at the end of Sycamore Road isn't haunted so much as it is patient. It sits where the fog hangs lowest, where the trees lean in like eavesdroppers. The first time I stepped inside, I told myself it was just another clean-out job. 48 hours to empty the place for a bank eager to flip it. I arrived on a Sunday because the broker said the lockbox code only worked on Sundays. I laughed at that. Then I opened the door. There was a heavy black rotary phone on a side table, the kind that makes conversation feel like a chore. The cord was cut. The handset lay off the hook, angled exactly toward the front window where the glass sweated with condensation. In the fogged pane, a single word was traced backward, as if written from the outside: Yadnus. I cupped my palm to the glass to make sense of it, and the letters blurred into harmless streaks. Just a prank. I decided to start in the kitchen. The kitchen bulb flickered like a dying pulse. On the table sat a mason jar with a rusted lid, something whitish swirling inside as if the jar had trapped the breath of winter. It fogged and unfogged in small, deliberate size. Next to it lay a stack of Polaroids. I love old photos. They can make a stranger's sadness look like art. I started thumbing through them because anything is better than work when work looks like black mold and mouse droppings. Every picture was of the same room, this kitchen. The angle looked out past the table to the window. In the first, the room was empty, just the sweating glass and the bulb, which in the photo was a hard coin of light. In the second, there was a smudge by the window. In the third, the smudge had edges, a brim, the suggestion of shoulders. I kept turning them. The figure was nearer in each one, stepped forward in increments like something obeying measurements. The 14th was almost all hat. On the white strip at the bottom, someone had written a date on every single picture. All Sundays, 15 of them. Different months, different years. Always Sunday. The phone rang. I know, no cord, no dial tone, but it rang anyway, a deep bell shivering the air, buzzing the metal bones of the house. I stared at it the way you stare at your own name, unexpectedly said in an empty room. I didn't pick up. The ring died on its own, as if a decision had been made without me. I worked until dark. I bagged clothes that smelled like old rain. I boxed books with titles about patience and prayer. I found a calendar tacked inside a pantry door, turned to a month with 5 Sundays circled in red. When I left, the jar was still fogging and clearing like a tiny heartbeat. I told myself I'd come back early Monday when there was light. Morning came and it was Sunday. I blamed the broker. I blamed my phone. I blamed how a job steals your sense of time. But when I checked, every clock I owned, the digital watch, the dashboard display, the cheap plastic wall clock in the living room of my apartment, agreed with the glass in that farmhouse window. It was Sunday again. When I returned to Sycamore Road, a man at the gas station squinted at me and said, "You look familiar," without meaning it as a compliment. The road to the house felt longer than the day before. The sycamores seemed closer to the asphalt, their roots bulging like knuckles. I told myself that if the lockbox code worked on Mondays, I'd laugh about the coincidence. The code clicked. The door swung open. The kitchen bulb greeted me with its unreliable heartbeat. The jar fogged, then cleared. The stack of Polaroids had been disturbed. There was a new one on top. The angle was the same. The table, the jar, the window, and now a faint shape at the very edge of the frame, as if the camera had captured someone turning away. On the bottom strip, in a careful hand, Sunday. I told myself the broker had staged it. I told myself this was a test, a dumb dare to spook the guy moving boxes. I said these things out loud because when you put a thought into the air, you hope the house will be forced to share it. The phone rang again. The sound crawled under my skin like cold water. The handset still lay on the table and the cord still went nowhere. But something on the other end believed in me enough to keep dialing. This time I lifted it. Not to my ear. I'm not foolish in obvious ways. I held it out, away from my face, and listened. There was a woman breathing, careful as a person making sure the door does not click shut behind them. Then a whisper, Don't let it be Sunday. A wet snap of the line. Silence. I closed the lid on the jar because it seemed polite. The fog inside pressed against the glass with the shape of 5 fingertips and then relaxed, like it wanted me to know it had learned my hand. I tried to make the house earn my presence. I dragged a sofa. I hauled a cedar chest that bled its scent across the hall. I worked upstairs where the wallpaper was a faded constellation of flowers. Above a child's bed, I found more Polaroids thumbtacked in a rough halo. A boy with a kite, a woman at a sink, the same heavy phone cradled between shoulder and cheek, a man in a hallway wearing a wide-brimmed hat, because men in old photos always wear the obvious. I went to the window to breathe. The glass was still damp, and from the inside, the letters were legible now, not backward at all. Sunday, the loops and lines ridged as if traced by a cold finger from within. I wiped it clear with the heel of my palm. It smeared. Beneath the smear, ghost letters lingered, as if new words waited their turn under the old. I left again at sunset. The road out took longer than the road in. The sycamores did not move, but they did not need to. My headlights went soft at their edges. The gas station neon muttered, "Open Sunday." The man behind the counter lifted a hand to wave to me with the wrong number of fingers for a second, and then it was a trick of the light again. Morning came, and it was Sunday. There is a special kind of tiredness that happens when time stops listening to you. By the 4th Sunday, I had stopped pretending I was going to finish the job. I went to the house because resisting it felt like arguing with weather. I brought a hammer, and I told myself I was going to break the phone or the jar, or both. On the table, both waited politely like instruments set out for an operation. When I lifted the jar, the fog slipped upward and dragged a pale handprint along the inside. The lid rattled against the glass, not because I shook it, but because the air in there had its own opinion. I brought the hammer down. The glass burst. The fog did not escape. It gathered itself with relieved precision and rose, a soft column taller than my chest. It pressed into the broken lip and became whole again, as if the jar were a wound that knew how to scab. The shards skated back into place. The lid screwed itself on with a slow, sated turn. On the inside of the glass, 5 finger marks pressed and held, and 1 small palm, as if a child leaned in from another weather. The phone rang. I answered because I needed the sound to change. I pressed the mouthpiece to my lips and listened. The whisper had my voice this time, exact in a way that stopped my heart for a beat. "Don't let it be the 16th, I said to myself. "What happens on the 16th? I asked, because if the house had rules, I wanted them spoken. "You belong to it," my voice said, too close, like a person speaking through my own teeth. The line clicked off, and for a breath, I heard another sound behind my words, the shutter of a camera winding down. I collected the Polaroids. I counted them twice. 15. I slid them into a pillowcase, took them outside to the dead garden, and lit a match. Fire loved the pillowcase. It chewed the cotton, licked the corners of the photos, and then lost interest. The Polaroids darkened to the edge of black and then returned, smudgeless, to themselves. The stack sat crisp in the dirt. The top one was new. The angle was the garden. The match in my hand made a brief gold tear in the air. In the background, over my shoulder, a shadow in a broad hat watched me as if admiring a painting. When I went back inside, the window had formed its word by itself. Sunday, written so hard, I could feel the grooves if I set my fingers in them. I didn't wipe it away. I pressed my own fingertip into the vertical of the N, and the glass answered by remembering me. My print chilled into the pain, and then I understood. The backward writing I'd seen from the outside on the first day had been mine. Not a warning from before me, but after. The house kept its stories, but it made us write them. On the 15th Sunday, I did not leave. I sat in the kitchen with the jar and the phone like unpleasant relatives, and I waited. The bulb above me warmed and cooled the air with its allergy to steadiness. At noon, the light steadied for the first time, as if a decision had finally been made. The camera shutter clicked, though there was no camera to see. The sound came from everywhere the house had ears. I felt the pull of it in my teeth and in the soft places of my eyes. The new Polaroid slid into being on the table. In it, I sat at the table, smaller than I felt in my own skin. Behind me, a tall, deliberate absence shaped itself into a man's outline. The brim of the hat was not made of cloth or shadow. It was made of empty. It was a piece of missing day pressed into the shape of a person. Where eyes should be, the photo showed the window. Where a mouth should be, the photo showed the word Sunday. I lifted the handset and held it to that place where the mouth should be. The line hummed. I spoke a sentence I had not designed. If someone hears this, if someone listens all the way to the end, it can be Monday. The hum swallowed my voice like food. You have listened this far. You've followed me through the kitchen and the fog and the clumsy phone and the trees that won't move but somehow move you. You've put your prints on the glass by imagining mine. Maybe you're driving. Maybe you're alone in a house that makes its own weather. Maybe you're listening on a Sunday, or on a day you will swear is not a Sunday, until the word writes itself on your window with the slow patience of frost. If the phone rings, don't pick up. If you do, you'll hear your own voice tell you what I told myself, and you'll believe it because no one lies to you as convincingly as you do. Please, let it be Monday where you are. Let it be any day at all that's made of edges and hours that move forward. And if you wake tomorrow to find all the clocks agree that it's Sunday, don't open the door at the end of Sycamore Road. If you already have, I'll see you in the photographs.